Hello everybody and welcome back to Down the Wire. It has been a long time since we have walked this path together, but things have changed. New equipment, new sound, more time. There is a lot more time. Me, personally, I have had a lot more time recently to do this. Obviously, I run another channel, the main one, where I focus on a different topic, but recently, I pondered the idea of getting back to this, and there were a few reasons why I stopped. First was time. Didn't have a lot of it. I was busy, school was starting up again, got a job, the gist. And the fact that the NFL takes every last cent that they can, and every single one of my videos were demonetized, even though I am not eligible for monetization, and one of my videos was blocked entirely. I had to trim out those segments just to have it back up, but we are back. Don't know if there will be a regular schedule, probably not, but here we are, back, and as long as I have the time to make videos for both channels, that is what will happen. So without further ado, let's get into today's subject. For whatever reason, if one is talking about the New York Jets, a name that comes up often is Joe Namath, the myth, the legend, the man who won Super Bowl III and was one of the main reasons the AFL and the NFL merged together. But over the past few decades, his Hall of Fame status has been questioned by those who have looked beyond the prolific tale of his football career and look more into what he accomplished outside of Super Bowl III. Today, I will be arguing both cases, the reasons why Joe Namath should stay in the Hall of Fame and why Joe Namath doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And at the end, I'll share my own opinion. For those of you who don't already know, I am a Patriots fan, and my best friend is a Jets fan, so we've had this discussion multiple times to the conclusion that I have become a master on this subject. So, without further ado, let's first look into the case for why Joe Namath belongs in the Hall of Fame. When you look at the legendary tales and stories of the NFL, the Tom Bradys, the Joe Montanas, one person who should always be in the conversation is Broadway Joe. Joe Namath may not be in the top 10 passing yards or touchdowns. That's because he played in the 1960s, where we were not even close to what the modern offense in the NFL looks like today. Joe Namath is in the Hall of Fame for what he accomplished on the field. He cemented his place in NFL history when he put his integrity on the line, when he guaranteed the city of New York a Super Bowl victory over the favorite Baltimore Colts. Without that win, we might not have the NFL as we know it today. The AFL and NFL merged because of that Super Bowl win. That alone should enshrine Joe Namath in the Hall of Fame for the rest of time. The Pro Football Hall of Fame shouldn't just be about numbers and statistics, it should be about legacies, and Joe Namath has one of the most prolific legacies in the entire National Football League. Like I mentioned before, we might not have the NFL we have today without Joe Namath. So without a doubt on my mind, Joe Namath belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame for the rest of time. Okay, well, all of that is great, but there's a lot more than just legacy to talk about. We keep talking about Super Bowl III. Well, let's look at the stats from Super Bowl III. Joe Namath, 17 for 28 for just 206 yards and 0 touchdowns, and he took 2 sacks for a loss of 11 yards. If that Super Bowl victory is so important to the NFL and its legacy, why not have everyone from that Super Bowl Jets team be enshrined into the Hall of Fame? It's a team sport, right? If that game is so important, give everyone on that team gold jackets then. One game should not define a player's legacy. And that is what most of Joe Namath's career is defined by. One game. But we need to look at all the other games. I'm going to ask a simple question, just a yes or no question that anyone could answer who knows football. Would you put someone, regardless of legacy or anything else, into the Hall of Fame who had 170 touchdowns to 200 interceptions? The answer would probably be no, right? Well, good old Broadway Joe threw 173 touchdowns to 220 interceptions. That's right, 220. His interception percentage is nearly 5%. Actually, scratch that. That was his interception percentage on the Rams, where he spent 1 year where he threw for a prolific 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. His career interception percentage is 5.8. 5.8%. That is abysmal. I'm not arguing that his Super Bowl victory was not important to the story of the NFL. It is. But that alone should not put someone into the Hall of Fame. You have guys like Julian Edelman or Jim Plunkett, who are very important to the legacy of the NFL, but are never going to get into the Hall of Fame. And this is a Patriots fan talking, saying that Julian Edelman, of all probabilities, will not get into the Hall of Fame. Now, some of you may be saying, all those stats are terrible, but for the time period that Namath played in, they're not that bad, right? We'll take this into account. Let's compare Joe Namath to his Super Bowl III opponent, Johnny Unitas. In his 13-year career in the NFL, Joe Namath only had 5 seasons where his completion percentage was above 50%. Compare that to Johnny Unitas. In his 18-year career, he only had 1 year, where his completion percentage was not above 50. And that was his last year in the NFL, where he played for the San Diego Chargers. The Hall of Fame is not the Hall of Really Good or the Hall of Greats. It is the Hall of Fame. It is for those who outperformed everyone else on the field. Those who astounded every Sunday and made it clear that they were at the top of their position. And by that logic alone, Joe Namath does not belong in the Hall of Fame. My own personal opinion on the Hall of Fame matter of Joe Namath is that, well, I don't think he belongs in the Hall of Fame personally, but I understand why he is in the Hall of Fame. I understand that his victory against the Baltimore Colts was important to the legacy of the NFL, and I'm not going to argue that he should be removed from the Hall of Fame. That is ridiculous. But in my personal opinion, if I was in charge of the Hall of Fame, I probably would not have Joe Namath in it. Well, thank you for taking the time every day to watch this. It is always greatly appreciated. I do have some ideas for future videos. One video similar to this style, not on the same topic of Hall of Fame, but similar to this style, and maybe a few that involved off-script, just all-around videos. You'll see if I have the time. But for right now, thank you, and remember, Joe Namath is not a Hall of Famer.
With the first pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select.
Throw it on a dime, like I ain't even trying. Just a kid from Briarwoods, I'm wearing number 9. Met Coach Franklin down at Vandy, flipped to Happy Valley. Now I'm coming back and got the natty on my mind. They can't touch my deep ball, every game I'm scoring. I'm your favorite quarterback, they call me Trace McSorley. Rep that blue and white, you know I do it for the glory. Baker won the Heisman, next up Trace McSorley.